I was 64 years old. I was beat up, a
Yeah.
lot of things hurt. My ankle, my wrist, my back. I thought I needed a hip replacement. My knees bothered me. Well, the biggest problem I had was my right wrist, and it was from constantly beating, cleaning chimneys and beating with a 5-pound sledgehammer, tearing bricks out of fireboxes. So it was really bad. I couldn't even use my right hand anymore. I'd go to church on Sunday. I couldn't even shake old ladies' hands. It hurt so bad. They dropped me to my knees. It was excruciating pain. I'm not one to go to the doctor ever, but I decided to go to the doctor. I'd actually set my broken hand one time when I was in the wilderness in Montana hunting. I stitched myself up, so I didn't think I needed to go to a doctor, right? But you do need to go. But so I went to a nice orthopedic hand specialist, and he said, "Yeah, you got a pretty big problem there, young man." And I appreciated the fact that he called me a young man, right? Anyway, I go, what's the deal? And he said, well, you got this thing, and he named it. I can't remember. It's a big old long name, about 10 miles long. He goes, but we can fix it. And he's holding my hand, and with his hand, and he's pointing at my ulnar bone. I think that's that little bump bone on your wrist. And he says the problem's in between that joint. It's your hand from all the work that you've done has impacted, and it is smashing up against that area there. He goes, we got to do surgery. Well, that scared me to death. I never had surgery in my life, right? So I went ahead and I was trying to get my hand out, and he wouldn't let me have it. He said, we have to cut the bone. Well,
Wow.
I about lost it then. He said, we're cutting it in half, and I still couldn't get my hand out. And
Mm.
then he said, no, we can do it better. He said, we're going to go back about a half inch, and we're going to cut it again. We're going to take a piece of your bone out. Well,
Okay.
I about lost it then, and then I managed to. He said, no, wait, we're gonna put it back together. We're gonna use some really good glue. He said glue, a bunch of screws and a metal plate, and you'll be good to go. Well, I was. His door was open a little bit, and I pulled my hand out of his hand, and I opened the door. I didn't even say goodbye. I just took off running down the hall to get me out of here. And I didn't know what I was gonna do. Got in the car, and I, almost felt like crying. I didn't want to have surgery, and I knew I was in trouble. My right arm was getting, left arm was getting stronger. My right arm was becoming left-handed. I was learning how to write with my left hand. I didn't want to be a cripple. And I just
Mm.
prayed and prayed and prayed. And um, um, God, up about, 2 weeks later, I got that phone call, and I saw some hope about healing. And so anyway, I'm in the van. I got the pat boxes out, opened up the box, took a patch out, getting ready to drive, put a patch on my right arm. Didn't know, I don't read directions of anything. I didn't know at the time that we needed to put it in a specific place at the time, but now we can pretty much put it anywhere.
Oh.
But at the time, back of our neck. So I started my band, started the same way I'd started it for a year, had to start with my left hand leaning way over because the ignition is on the right hand side of the column. Kind of awkward, but I was pretty good at it because I couldn't use my right hand. Put the patch on and took off driving Janelle. And lo and behold, within about a minute and 30 seconds, my pain in my hand, it was an 8 all the time. It hurt like crazy. And at night, it was a 10. I couldn't even sleep at night. It went from an 8 to a 2 really quick. I looked at
Wow.
my hand, grabbed the steering wheel for the first time in a year with my right hand, squeezed it, and it didn't hardly hurt. I couldn't believe it. I'm driving at the time. I'm looking at my hand in the patch. I'm looking at the box on the seat and trying not to get in a wreck. Well, that was just the beginning of my 1 minute miracle, I guess, if you want to call it that. The sky seemed like it got 10 times bluer.
Yeah.
My vision wasn't as good as I thought it was. I had to wear reading glasses, but it just quickly cleared up. Um, I
Mhm.
ended up, the leaves on the trees looked like they got 10 times greener. I finally pulled over after 15 minutes. I just couldn't handle it. It's like, what in the world? I'm looking at the box. And so, anyway, then more stuff happened to me that day, Janelle. I had more energy than I normally do, and I'm like hot grease on a skillet. I didn't need any more energy, but I had more energy. I went to
Yeah.
bed that night, and I slept good anyway. I slept better than I had in 3 decades. And
Wow.
so I woke up the next morning and just checking it all out, and I thought, well, by then I read the directions and realized that you put I figured I better go read this the directions and see what I have here, and realize where you can put the patch, and realize you put it on the day, not at night, and stuff.
Mhm.
So checked all that out, and after a day or two, things were just getting better. I felt better. I thought I need to tell people about this. Still wasn't even thinking about the business. I was thinking about the people, and
Yeah.
And I didn't know any network marketers, but I knew a lot of people around the world. And I started picking up the phone and I just said, hey, I didn't know what to say. I said, hey, have you heard about X39? And they said, no, no, everybody says no. Even now, everybody says no. And I said, well, it's changed my life. And it had in a couple of days, I felt later on, it really changed it. But, they said, well, wow, really? Tell me about it. I said, no, just watch this 3-minute video. Well, I love that 3-minute video, Janelle, because it does 75% of my work for me.
Yeah.
I saw Jim Cadwell when I was in um, Denmark this last week. And I said, Jim, I said, how in the world did you get all that information into 3 minutes? I said, I watched that thing probably 100 times. And I still just get so much out of it. I love that little video. It's the only one I ever use. And
Wow.
so anyway, I ended up just started calling people and texting people. Um, I ended up selling 11 diamonds my first month, 20 golds and silvers. And the first person I signed up in Montana, she sold 10 diamonds that first month. And I ended up not making income claims. So this is what happened. I made $10,500 my first month in the time of the season, the year that I was broker than snot, and I couldn't, I was broke in July. I don't make that much money ever. I mean, that was 1/10 of what I made the whole year of my chimney business. I'm making that in the summer, so I was really happy. I
Wow.
talked to my sponsor, and I said, I think I'm going to do this as a business. He goes, well, I think you're doing it as a business. He goes, you're like blowing it up. He put me on a leg that was on an island, the far outside leg, and I never got any help, any volume coming from him because I was exploding it. And I didn't even know that you could get volume from your upline. I never got it. I just took off being a rogue, basically running, doing my own show, and learning as I went. And I
Yeah.
decided that I wanted to focus on just X39. I'd found out there were other patches. They're all good, but I have never, in 6 years, never marketed another patch, never put another patch on anybody.